Welcome to another video and continuing my deep dive into the year 1970 when I was only 16 years of age. I've been dipping into the genres from the releases, and now I'm going to have a go at the second episode looking at prog rock. Prog rock was pretty integral to my listening at this stage of my life, and so it is worth a closer look than some of the other genres. And in this video I'm going to try and cover 4 albums as long as I keep the time down. So I'll cut the chatter and get on with the first one. First of 2 albums that were released in 1970 by King Crimson in the wake of Poseidon, which was their second official release, released in May of that year. The album was recorded amidst a lot of instability in the band, several personnel changes, but it's very much a sort of a twin of the first album, In the Court of the Crimson King. The mood of the album Poseidon replicates to an extent the quick changes from serene to chaos that is reflected in the first album. It really does indicate how versatile the musical aspects of progressive rock were. And a quick point about the album cover. Lots have been written about this album on the internet, and I'm not going to go into too much depth. But the album cover was called The 12 Archetypes, or The 12 Faces of Humankind, and painted by Tamo de Jong in 1967. And it reflects the Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, connecting the feminine water theme with the tarot card, the Temperance. And yeah, I found all that on Wikipedia. I won't tell you any more about Wikipedia, but I think that is a useful piece of information, seeing as we often stare at covers. Tracks were written by Robert Fripp, that is, and Pete Sinfield, apart from Cat Food, and I'll tell you about that one in a bit. We kick off with Peace of Beginning. There are 3 short extracts titled Peace. This one starts off with a tranquil lake voice, and it's sort of setting up the explosion that ends with a dulcimer. And then we're straight into Pictures of a City. It's a slightly slower 21st century schizoid man. That's how I view it anyway. I feel it's a bit better, mind you, more expansive, before we float off into that city and slowly the crescendo is recycled. The horns, lots of rhythmic horns and a heavy monotone impact, and Fripp's speed guitar is something to be noted. Track 3, Cadence and Cascade. I got it eventually. This is a beautiful folk ditto, really. Lapping waters in a mill pond, very English, delicate acoustic guitars with piano. It's got a little bit of jazz piano courtesy of one Keith Tippett, and the solo flute calms those feelings after the opener. Then we're on to the title track, 8 minutes. It's the centerpiece, really, of this album. The mellotron commands the instrumentation alongside Haskell's strong vocals. The harpsichord is meshed in with other mellotron tricks, and it's given a full orchestral sound. It's wonderful for its time. Bit too long then. And so that's basically side 1. 2 opens with the second episode of Peace. This is a theme and it's instrumental. And neat acoustic melody from Fripp. Then we get into Cat Food. I particularly like this one. It's a very, very different sort of type of song of the King Crimson. It was a surprise single as well and got into the charts at the lower end. Lots of jazz here, the funky rhythms and high flute-like piano, and very zany lead work by Tripp towards the outro. The vocals are way out there, sang by Lake. It's a dig at fast food consumerism and all it entails. And then we reach the piece, The Devil's Triangle, which is a completely instrumental piece, which basically takes up most of the side, the second side that is. It's apparently a version of Mars from the Planet Suites by Gustav Holst, and it's dominated by the mellotron and guitar. The piece has been meticulously analysed for interpretation in relation to the classically related feel of it, but its complexity is well beyond me. Just to say it starts quietly and builds march-like, equivalently to a death march with a cult-like religious negativity. It's very trance-like and very disturbing, and it's definitely an acquired taste. It's in 3 sections, and rest assured it is powerful electronic progressive music, but it can hardly be described as rock. And Mars, symbolising the Roman god of war, would seem to be an apt description to this piece, because it has got a military flavour. It's off with the 3rd instalment of Peace and End, which is tranquility after the triangle. Basically that's about it. As I say, there was 2 albums, and I'll maybe get round to the second offering, Lizard, in another video. So basically that is the second album, and pretty good one it is too. Just to show how unpredictable I am, I'm going to now select the second offering, which is the second album by Van der Graaf Generator. Sorry, that's incorrect. It's the 3rd album by Van der Graaf Generator, but the second that they released in 1970, and it's called H to HE, Who Am the Only One, whatever that means. I know what H to HE is, courtesy of my scientific education and the periodic table. As I say, released at the end of the year. I'll probably include their second album that was released at the start of the year in another video. Has to be said, a lot of great ideas in this. It's similar to the first, and the songs seem to relate certain things of significance to the human. One, killer in the title Killer Shark, Lost, as in the title Lost Love, and a scientific material that's encapsulated in Pioneers Over Sea. Now, bassist and Potter left the group in August, midway through the recording, and they continued without a bass player, with organist Hugh Bantam covering the bass guitar in the studio, and King Crimson's Robert Fripp made a guest appearance on guitar, and the artwork is featured by Paul Whitehead. And quickly the personnel, there'll be a slide of this: Pete Hamill, David Jackson and Hugh Banton, and finally Guy Evans on drums. There's a slide with the details of personnel, so I don't need to go through all the instruments that they play, but they are all multi-instrumentalists. The tracks then, let's go through these quickly. Killers opens up, Hamill stretching his words. When he says the word dance, it becomes dance. The avant-garde instrumental section with the sax blaring out hits you immediately against the main thrust of the tune. It's thrilling, it's thrilling. The sax blares away, but Hamill is the inspiration for this awe-inspiring piece. And midway, the improvised instrumentation exudes power. Sax, yes, there's lots of sax before the riff returns. Next up is House with No Door. A gentle melody starts off this with some soothing flute which filters into the piece. There's some nice piano throughout, however, and it's a song about someone who's had difficulty forming relationships and was unable to have meaningful contact with other peoples. The house is a metaphor for your brain, apparently, and that's what I interpreted this for that track too. Tracks are pretty lengthy, and you can have a look on the tracks list for the actual time. Track 3, The Emperor on His War Room. Very scary lyrics, it has to be said. Fripp appeared as a session guitarist, and he immerses you in the overall sound, and it certainly packs a punch. It's about a tyrant who tortures people indiscriminately, but is ultimately haunted by those he has tormented. The music joined together two different sections, a sombre opening and a closing, combined with a bass-driven rock section in the middle, featuring Fripp's work and the impressive horns which glide over the sound. Next up is Lost. Hamill's vocals cement this song into the instrument, solidifying the overall sound. The instrumental passages have a more avant-garde jazz feel. And then to the closer, Pioneer Over Sea. This is very experimental and takes a lot of listening to. It's co-written by the saxophonist David Jackson, assisting Hamill. The song has a strong science fiction element to it and was about a group of astronauts who managed to travel faster than the speed of light, hence the C in the title. As a result, they go into a time warp and experience a living death where time passes in a non-linear fashion, and they're unable to return to Earth. It has some very complex arrangements, this song, a bit of a stop-start feel to it. So for me, it was a bit of a slight disappointment. But really, in terms of the overall package, this is a pretty solid third album from a band who have, over time, developed almost a cult following for their classy work. So give it a listen. H2HE, Who Am the Only One by Van der Graaf Generator.